Hello, Mother.
Stephen, what brings you here?
I brought you a little present.
Where do you want it, Mr. Cord?
In the living room. Right here will be fine. Thank you, gentlemen.
You're welcome, Mr. Cord. What's the meaning of this?
Well, frankly, Mr. Peyton, I thought Mother might like to have some of her husband's effects. You know, my father must have been a very sentimental man. He threw very few things away. Anne's baby shoes are in there, one of her little pinafores, her old report cards. Anne was a very good student, do you know that? But her teachers recommended that she get a little more attention at home, so she wouldn't have to resort to so much make-believe.
Stephen, please.
That was unworthy of you, Stephen.
Unworthy? Well, I'm a little surprised to hear you say that, Mr. Peyton. Was it worthy of you to deceive Anne and me our whole lives, to feed us lies and half-truths? I preferred the lies. At least you knew where you stood. It was much worse when you and Mother refused to talk about things. You know, a child's imagination can dream up some pretty awful things.
Your mother and I did what we thought was best for your welfare and for your sisters. Believe me, you'll never be in a position to judge how successful we were.
That's typical of the kind of double talk I've gotten for almost 30 years. Well, it's not good enough anymore. Now, there is one thing I am in a position to judge. You had a chance to help Anne when she came back to this town. Instead, you turned your back on her. And when she found out who she was, you tortured her with it, instead of begging her forgiveness. Even then, you couldn't let go, could you? When she left this house that day, the day she died, you followed her. You went to the boarding house. It's true, isn't it? Why did you have to see her again, Mother? Something you overlooked? Some ugly detail you'd forgotten to tell her?
I never saw her again, I swear. I knew I'd hurt her, of course, but...
And you wanted to apologize.
I don't know. I just knew I wanted to see her again, to try to change things.
What did you say to her? I want to know.
Stephen, your mother's a human being. I suggest you treat her like one or get out.
I'll get out, Mr. Peyton. When I know everything I have to about what happened to Anne on the day of her death.
Why? So you can use it against your mother in some vicious way?
Because I'm Anne's brother. Or rather, I was her brother. And if you kept me from looking after her during her life, you are not going to now.
Is looking after her, as you call it, defending the man who persecuted her while she was alive?
If I had to make a choice of enemies, I'd take Lee Weber over you and Mother anytime.
Careful, young man. You're in danger of making an enemy right now. I shouldn't have to remind you that you're my legal representative in PEYTON Place, nor that you enjoy a handsome retainer for the privilege. Like all privileges, this one can be revoked.
You're very predictable, Mr. Peyton. Somehow with you, it always comes down to threats. Only this time, you're absolutely right. I've given it a lot of thought. As long as I work for you, I'm your man. No matter how many fancy names I have, like legal representative. That's the plain truth of it. Well, I'm afraid I can't afford to be anybody else's but my own right now.
Do you know what you're saying?
I've never known more clearly in my entire life. Mr. Peyton, you'll receive my letter of resignation in the mail tomorrow.
Stephen! Stephen!
Sandy?
She ducked out for a minute.
Give me a cup of coffee, will you? Chris? I didn't expect to find you here. Who's minding the garage?
There you are.
I just left the police station. Any news about Allison? I don't know, but I had a long talk with my brother.
Yeah?
He had a lot of things to say.
He usually does.
He said you dumped Allison. That's the way he put it. Nothing settled about Lee.
Okay, Chris, what's your problem?
You treated her like dirt, didn't you? You treated her like you owned her, like she was private property.
I think you know better than that. Now, obviously, your brother has gotten you upset.
That's right, I am upset.
Well, I don't want to talk about Allison, okay, to anyone. See you around.
Wait a minute. Rod, You and I have kind of a weird relationship because of Allison. I feel like I want to say something to you. Okay? Chapter 1, Confessions of a Blind Boy. I loved her, Rod. I really loved her. That's all I wanted to say. Chris, tell me. Come on, tell me. What's that? I had never met anyone like her. I couldn't use my favorite alibi when she didn't fall for me. I couldn't say, well, Chris, he just had a couple of eyes. Because I knew that wasn't true. I knew things like that didn't really matter to her. She just didn't love me. If I had 20/20 vision, she still wouldn't have loved me. Because she loved you. She loved me. And I loved her. Somehow that wasn't enough. Why did you break up? I think if I had the answer to that, I'd be sitting in there staring at a cup of coffee. I don't know. When I turned to her, she was afraid. And when she reached for me, I was looking the other way. I knew what was happening to her. I helped make it happen. What do you mean? Lee didn't hurt Allison, but he hurt me bad. All my life I've been afraid of him, but I've never had the guts to get even. Then I met Allison. I fell in love with her almost right away. I knew she didn't feel the same way, but I couldn't accept it. I just couldn't. I tried to test her love. I began to make demands on her, weighted her down with my problems. Then I asked her to keep a secret. The secret of Ann Howard's innocence. A secret I knew was impossible to keep, wrong to keep. But when she told her father, I felt betrayed, helpless, the way I always felt with Lee. But Allison wasn't Lee. She was vulnerable. She could be hurt. And so I hurt her. I punished her for everything that ever happened to me. What'd you tell her? The cruelest thing I could think of. I said she couldn't love. That she was incapable of loving. I wanted her to love me so much. You know, we all hurt her. We're all to blame. I was such a coward, such a stupid coward. I've got to try and make it up to her, Rod. They've got to find her. They've just got to. Why does everybody act as if she's gone forever? Why do we blame ourselves for what happened? We could turn around this very minute and she'd be standing. Did you turn around, Rod? And she wasn't there. Don't worry, we'll find her. I'll find her.
And then the old fool said, I should think a fellow your age would feel silly playing with kids' toys like that.
Sounds like an acute case of envy to me.
Yeah. Old Sawyer was green because Elliot found this model. He looked absolutely bilious. I'd like to have this finished by the time Elliot gets back. He done right, Connie, going to New York.
I know.
When he gets together with the police there, they'll find Allison. You mark my words.
I know, Eli. It's just a matter of time.
This is getting like work. What do you say we go up and see the nursery? It was my idea in the first place, you know, converting that old sleeping porch into a nursery. I want to be absolutely sure that everything is just right for my grandson.
And what makes you so sure it'll be a grandson?
That's like asking me, how do I know there's going to be summer or a sunrise or birds singing? I just know. And it's not too soon to start laying down some rules, you know. Boys are different from girls. No, wait a minute, let me explain. They tend to grow up a little wild, like weeds, if you don't know how to handle it. A little old-fashioned discipline. That's the ticket. And don't spoil the boy, Connie. The way you and Elliot are starting out, I think you're going to dedicate your lives to spoiling my grandchild. What's wrong, Connie?
It's nothing.
Something I said?
No, it's just... Every time I go into that nursery now, I think how warm and perfect and right everything is. How different the world's going to be for this child.
Connie.
It's going to have everything that Allison was denied. A mother, a father, a real home. It's coming into a real world, Eli. Not a make-believe world that I created for Allison. Out of lies and half-truths and evasions.
Connie, don't do this to yourself.
I want this baby, Eli. With all my heart and soul. But some frightening instinct tells me I've lost Allison. That's the price. And I don't know if I can pay it.
Preview from the continuing story of Peyton Place.
I'm not playing your game. If you hate your brother, you work it out in your own way.
You're gonna listen to me, Stephen.
Then say it! Why did you take my brother's case?
It's what you are. You're cruel, Martin. You like to see pain. I promise you this, Martin. If I'm hurt, you'll feel the pain.